Hi students, I'm going to be a little briefer this week, in part because I'm going to try a new approach. I hope you had a good break. I'll just start off with that. But then let's move on to Augustine, because I really love Augustine. And it's okay if you don't. But I feel like there's certain things that I want us to have on the table before you read for this week. Augustine, like I mentioned in the previous lecture, is somebody who speaks like he writes. Or what do I mean by that? I mean, he was a skilled rhetorician. We know that. And he writes like a rhetorician. He writes almost like you can hear him talking. And to me, that's important because I think in the chunk of readings you're going to do for this week, you're going to be sort of maybe confused or feel like he's all over the place. And I don't want you to get stuck in the woods on that. What you need to do is find the common thread. And I think the common thread for this reading is basically psychology. Basically human emotion. Why is Augustine so set on explaining why the drive for glory is so distorting of the Romans, right? Is it just because he wants to say that they're not virtuous at the end of the day? And I think the answer is no. There's something about the drive for glory that is disordered for him. And it's important to understand in two senses. It's theologically, philosophically disordered, right? In the Platonic sense, right? The soul is out of order when that's your aim. But it also leads to really bad political consequences when the reason you make different political decisions is because of love of praise. Another thing you need to look at is how the love of domination and the love of glory differ, because they differ. They're both pathologies. They're both ways that we should not be in the world, in politics or in anything else. But they're not the same. And so the question is, how are they not the same? And I think another good question to ask is, does one lead to the other? Does the love of glory lead to the love of domination? And finally, I think when you get to book 9, that's when the alternative account becomes clear. I think when you read book 5, you may sort of feel like, okay, I see the love of glory and the love of domination as being the bad way to act, the bad psychological disposition, the bad way to be oriented to the world. But what is the good way? I get that he's going to say it's something like love of God and love of neighbor, but actually, what is it? And what I think you'll find is that the answer is at least in part in book 9. 10 and 14, which we'll get to later, flesh it out more. But book 9, which is about compassion, is something I think will really lead to the kind of political disposition and disposition of the soul he thinks is not only well-ordered, but also just.